the Upfront Toronto podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Upfront Toronto, conversations with people that move the city forward. We're excited to have someone that we know well and happens to be family. It's Aharon Ozery, and he happens to be my brother and the GM of Parallel Sesame Butter brand that has started 3.5 years ago on the famous Geary Street. And I started as a restaurant and now is a brand selling sesame seed-based products. Aharon is an artist and has lived in both in Israel, has studied in art school in Jerusalem, and then has moved with his family to Berlin, Germany, where he practiced art and had showings all over Europe, and came to Canada around 5 years ago. And now we are all working together in growing this sesame brand and sesame butter brand here in Toronto, Canada. Aharon, welcome.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything? Is there anything you'd like to add to that introduction?
No, let's start with that, and then we'll move through it.
Fantastic. I just wanted to add that Aharon's contribution not only to running the business and growing it, but a tremendous contribution in the interior space of Parallel. When you enter that space, it is, I think, a very unique feeling. And it's basically, Aharon, it's your hand there and eye and heart in every detail, kind of giving it an industrial look, but has some art to it. And it does really fit in with all the eclectic businesses from the Portuguese chicken to the garages to the beer breweries on the street, and it really works well, and many people comment how nice that is. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, and it's right down to the dishes as well, to the dishes and the tables. Like the detail is, Aaron, hats off.
So we started this 3.5 years ago, and as Alon mentioned, I was practicing art before I came to Canada. And then when I came with my family, we decided, the three of us, to open this new business. And for me, it was a very exciting time, because moving from working alone in a studio to working with people, and with more tools to build and to use in building this business. It was super exciting. It was kind of moving out of my comfort zone, and also my habits. And Geary was the perfect match for us to do this. Not only to build a business, but also for me, what I love most is renovations.
Aharon, if he could buy a new building every year and renovate it and design it, and because it's all about also the experience of people, what they feel when they come in, what they see. I think you'd be in that business too, but we're not in that business.
Slowly, Alon, we're working on it.
And the fit is so, like you said, is so ideal with the Geary Avenue or Geary Street. Sorry, it's just there's such a right fit for us and for the brand. So, Liza.
All right. Well, we'll start, Aaron, with a few questions just around COVID, because it's something that is obviously happening and has affected businesses throughout. And we just want to know how has COVID affected the business? So drawbacks, opportunities, and also what you've learned about yourself through this process.
So it affected tremendously the business, because moving from an open restaurant with people coming in and sitting, we had to shut down the restaurant. Luckily, we had plans. By the way, I work together with our fourth partner, George Grabsky, who is our head chef. So we work together, we plan together, we decide, and he came from Israel 3 years ago. I grew up in Israel. I haven't been there in the last 11 years, but something about the mentality of Israeli people is, I think you can generalize and say that they love changes. They love maneuvering, it doesn't scare us as much as I think maybe other people. And we just the approach that we took with Parallel is, we have the reality is that COVID came in. We had to shut down the restaurant, and we have to see what the new opportunities are. Luckily, we did start with our takeout menu before that, and we actually built a whole new kitchen to separate the restaurant from the takeout because we saw a big potential there, and we didn't want it to affect the restaurant.
Aharon, there was such a big, because it's not like it was happening anyways, but at first the restaurant got so busy. It was packed. There were lineups. It really did well. And then from that, we went very quickly, like everyone else, to COVID, which was nobody indoors. So that was a big jump, and it was a big kind of adaptation by the team, by George, by yourself. So it actually turned out to work okay. And now the focus is more on brand also, right?
Yeah, so we started, as you know, Alon, we started Parallel as a brand, right? We took the sesame seeds as the main focus, and especially the seeds that we import from Ethiopia, from Humera region, and we did everything around this product. So we started out with something that wasn't only a restaurant. We had the three products in. We had the Halva that we were making and selling in the front store. The store then was much smaller than today. So we had a really good base to move from and change when COVID hit us. So when it did hit us, of course, we reduced staff. We went from about 40 staff to 7. And then it lasted not for such a long time, because we had to grow back very quickly, because we saw the takeout was taking off like crazy, because everybody has to eat, right? Everybody still wants to eat from their favorite restaurants. And anyways, we became very, very busy with the takeout, and we had to rehire all our cooks plus other cooks. And besides the takeout, we also expanded our store. We decided to take the whole front of Parallel and build a store and develop new products. And George is the perfect person for this, because his background is baking. He ran the catering company for one of the top chefs in Israel, and he was very into baking and using the ingredients that we were using in Parallel anyways. So we built up a store that now is quite attractive for many people, and it's growing from week to week. We see it's...
Aharon, I don't know if you remember this, but George worked for Erez Komarovsky, who's one of Israel's top chefs and top bakers. And I remember close to 20 years ago being there. I went to this industrial area in Herzliya looking, because I heard about this amazing bread being made in this area. And I went and I found Komarovsky, Erez bread. And going in there actually was kind of reminded me of Geary also, because it was in an industrial area making this type, not similar food, and all these beautiful sourdough baked products. And I guess, I don't know if I've seen George there accidentally at that time, but I whenever I visited, I'd go there and check out what's new and try and get new ideas from them. So that's kind of a connection to George's roots of food making.
Yeah, I remember the same. He had quite a few restaurants and bakeries in Israel, and you also went up north to where he cooks where he lives with all the herbs he grows. So George was the perfect match for this. And I and George work really. I can say this because I had a different experience before that. But we really work in harmony, and we have the same line of thought, and we and also we love change. We changed the space so many times, even before COVID. Every time we had to.
Aharon, some of us love change more than others, and
I know.
some of us are trying to stop change.
But this for me, being an artist, dealing the art I did before we started the business was installations, and it was referring to space and also to site-specific areas. And Geary, the space we took, is a site-specific area because you have the train tracks in the back. You have freight trains running, across the windows, and you have Geary Avenue, which has all this atmosphere of part industrial, part very trendy, cafe, pasta makers, beer breweries, and we blended this into the space, and also using along those three words that we chose when we were just talking about Parallel before it all happened, which were surprise, integrity, and what was the third one? And simplicity. So I think Geary brings that, our space brings that when you walk in from the street, this industrial street, and you open the door and suddenly you see this large space.
Yeah, you don't expect that space looking at the street. And you're right, there is an element of surprise there, and those words and values do guide us until today. Even with designing with the spreads that we made, the chocolate spread and the natural spread, everything, all the like similar concepts and values still guide us there. So let's take us to career. So you've had an interesting career, mostly as an artist, and in 2 continents, I guess, Israel, Europe, and then Canada. So 3. So what was your first job, Aharon?
My first job was I was handing out papers. When I was 14, in the neighborhood we lived in Toronto, Lawrence and Bathurst, I think. That was my first job. My second job was a dishwasher.
I know, we were co-dishwashers at the time.
Yes.
I was the senior dishwasher and Aharon was the junior dishwasher.
Yeah.
Was it at the same place? Were you guys working at the same place?
It was an old deli, an old Jewish deli in
Coleman's Deli.
Bathurst, and now it's closed. But then
now it's a Subway sandwich. Actually, I just visited it. I drove by it the other day.
Yeah, but it was around the corner from our house, and Alon started working there, then Guy, and then I, and that was our first experience in the restaurant business. And
then you ran away from it for years and years, and because you were smart, and then you came back to it.
I was a cook there before, for a few months, and then in Israel, I worked as a server in restaurants, and I even had a small restaurant that with a girlfriend that was a chef in the Cordon Bleu. She studied in the Cordon Bleu. She was a patisserie chef, amazing talent, and we opened together a restaurant that lasted for half a year because our relationship didn't last longer. But for the half year it lasted, it was very successful, so it was kind of moving from working in this industry just to make money, and then doing the art on the other side, which became a career. And before coming to Canada, actually letting go of that and releasing myself from this identity of an artist, which allowed me to open up to many other things.
Aharon, what's your source of inspiration? What or who is your source of inspiration?
So in the art world, I have many,
Pick one if you can, and if it can be overlaying, like if it's more like both for art and for business.
Maybe I won't take names, but I'll just take sorts of art. I was drawn to installation art, which is 3-dimensional art that was completely integrating or using spaces or site-specific areas.
Aharon, is that because of the size? Because when I think installation, I think large. Like I don't think
Liza,
small.
I remember years and years ago, the first time I went to Germany was for Aaron's first, I guess, showing. And it was this, you walk into a room, which is, medium-sized room of a gallery on a beautiful Berlin street in Mitte, I think. And you walk in and you see this massive round thing built from metal. And what it was, Aaron, remember it? It was these arms, mechanical arms, lifting these egg-shaped whatevers and lifting them from one pole to another in a circular kind of movement. Very strange. And you're standing between the big, like it's above you, and you walk inside it and see it and look around, and it's above you, it's around you, and you're just drawn to it by the sheer size and movement, and trying to figure out what the hell that is. So I'll never forget that, Aaron.
Yeah, so for me, it was more a physical thing. It was a relation to the size of my body, and I think I related always to the space I was working in. And movement was a big thing for me, circular movement, repetition, meditative movement, which I used many times in art, but it's all around us, right? It's not only, it's everywhere. It's everywhere you look or see. There is a circulation, repetition. That's using that. And also architecture was a huge influence for me. For me, buildings are sculptures. I love seeing buildings going up. I think I know every construction site in the city because I go by it and I see how the progress is. Shira calls me an inspector because I always go by and look at how it was developed. But for me, it's three-dimensional objects that influence, and they give you a reference to the city, because when you see a building, I always know where it is. I know which streets cross underneath it, and it gives me a relation or coordinates to where I am.
Well, there must be a passion there, because most people avoid the construction areas and you specifically go towards them.
Yeah.
Because I love the guts of the building. I love to see. So anyways, many artists, for an example, Gordon Matta Clark, he's an artist that cut buildings. And then you could see the layers of the buildings, and how they were built, how they were constructed. Beautiful. It's just like an insight to what's in there. Rachel Whiteread, she's a British artist that filled space and then took away what was left. So, for instance, between the stairways or a room, she would fill it up and then move the cast, and you would actually see a sculpture of the space in a room. So not the room, but the space within.
So I'm loving how we're talking about your career, and we're talking about art actually, and buildings and construction and stuff. It's interesting. It's what makes you tick, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then Geary taking this rectangular space and then opening up the back window because a train comes by, and a train.
There was like this small window originally, and then we opened it vertically,
right,
all the way as much as we could, so you could see the train. And like you said, it was mesmerizing. It is mesmerizing seeing Liza. You'd sit there, and then suddenly the big massive train comes, and it's like an installation. You're right.
And you can also feel it. You can feel it shudder the building.
Yeah.
And you can see it from almost anywhere in the restaurant, and it's completely part of the atmosphere of the space.
Okay.
So when you're creating art, or even when you're creating the inside of Parallel, because for the listeners that haven't been to Parallel, it's a very large space. It's like there's very high ceilings, and did you see that potential there when you walked in?
Yeah, he saw it the first time we walked in, definitely.
I think we all saw it.
We did.
It was a rundown old, it used to be an old Portuguese restaurant before, then it became a storage space. But of course we could see.
Actually, do you remember? I remember seeing the building when the first time it was, who was the singer, Aaron, that owned it? Nelly Furtado. Nelly Furtado.
Oh.
So Liza, she stored her band stuff in this building. And I remember walking into the end, and then you walk up these stairs where the train, you could see the train, and they had this room with all her stuff in it. And I'm like looking through, and I saw her stilettos and obviously used for one of her shows or something. And I'm like, in my mind is, I think I want to steal the stiletto just so I have something of hers. But then, I guess
The conscience
my
kicked in.
mother was sitting on my shoulder telling me it's not right to do, and I didn't steal her stiletto. I regret doing that because I don't think she'd miss it in any way. And actually, she came for the closing of when we got the building. I wasn't there, and yeah. Anyways, just a side note story of the building and
Yeah,
her
it's a
stilettos.
nice history of the building. It's been
So, Aaron, what was, let's say, what's the lowest point of your career and how did you deal with it? If you can share with us.
Yeah, I guess there are times when you're an artist, I worked from show to show, right? And I was teaching at the time as well, and you have, of course, the periods where you don't have much going on, and then you have periods that you have a lot of stuff going on, and then part of the beauty of letting that go is not being on that roller coaster. Which is very liberating. So yeah, I would say the periods where you're kind of after a show, especially after a show, you build up to.
What is it? What's next? Is that the thing, or
Yeah,
like what am I worth? Or
yeah, you reach a climax and then suddenly, boom! It's it ends, and sometimes the response is not like you expected.
So how did you deal with it? What picked you up?
I was never devastated by stuff, by things like this, but it did influence, and it was periods of more of a down than rather than an up. But I was never devastated, let's say, by a critic I didn't like, or
so just to kind of connect things, you are an artist in your soul. And now we have a sesame butter brand, and I actually see a big connection there. In addition to the space that you've designed and that we have created together, I think I always see in my mind you making halva. And Liza, if you see it, I think you could see it on our site somewhere. But he's like mixing the halva with his arms, and it's very like it's such an artisanal a process where it's how much you mix will affect the product itself, how much you fold it. And to be honest, until Aaron started making it, and now he doesn't, but he trained someone great to do it, it wasn't that good. But then like you feel it with your hands, Aaron, right? And that's a really, I guess there's a connection with the art there, right?
It's also, it's a process, and you have to know when to stop when you don't need anymore. And in art, it's the same thing. And of course, you have to know how much, if it's enough, or if it's that exact point of balance that makes it in the right place. And of course, it has to do with art as well, because while you're working, you're not sure if you need to add something to it, if you need to take away something for it. But there's that
connection with a product almost. You need to know when it's enough, like you said.
Yeah, it's that sweet point where it's exactly where it should be. And
with bread, it's the same. Like when we make pitas and breads, you can over mix it. You can not proof it enough. You can proof it too much. It's almost, you have to keep all your senses alert when you're making them, and then know when to move on. And that's the human element in it. I think for those of you who don't know, halva is a Middle Eastern snack that's made of sesame butter. With us, it's organic cane sugar and a root extract of sort that is really nice. It's it's fairly sweet, but very satisfying. It goes really good with a cup of tea or coffee, and is a wonderful dessert and snack.
So Aaron, are you ever, go ahead.
Yeah, I think halva is also very uncompromising. The process is so precise that you don't have, once you start it, you have to follow the right timing and the right procedure and texture that you need to get until the end. So it's a unique process. It's almost like alchemy, because you're mixing all these ingredients together. They change their form, and it has to do, like with bread, temperature, moisture, where you're at, how is it outside, what's happening with the air conditioning,
Yeah, humidity,
water.
everything.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting process.
So with Parallel, and because there's so much of your art, like your artistic side that's included in that, are you ever satisfied? And how long does that last?
I'm happy to say that yes, I am satisfied a lot of the times. It doesn't mean that I don't have all the time. I want to do more things.
Right.
Liza, I'm the unsatisfied brother usually. I'm the one that annoys him.
No, but
that goes without saying, though, doesn't it?
It's in common with my two brothers. Yes.
No,
Right.
it's a big challenge to be satisfied, but I work on it because I know there's never an end, and there isn't a point that you reach and at that point you'll be satisfied. It's an ongoing, thing. You have to find that point right now, and
but when you want to change something, is it because of dissatisfaction, or is it because you see a different opportunity, or that something could be made better?
It's because it's a living, breathing thing, and it needs care all the time. It needs adjusting. It needs some other need suddenly pops up. And because we're all the time adding to it, and so we need to change it as well. We need to rearrange it all the time. We need to fit things in places they didn't fit before, and again, because the space, it seems big, but for us it's very small now. It's like a submarine. Everything has to fit in its own.
It's like at the rims, it's kind of packed. Aharon, where do you see the business in 5 years? What's your what do you see the business go? What direction is it going towards? Where do you want it to be?
So I see us developing more products. I see us growing.
What kind of products?
So now we're working on a line of spices that's coming out very soon. Really beautiful line. It's a blend of spices and mixtures that we use in our ingredients. So that's coming out. I'm sure we're going to have more sesame-based products. We're working on different crackers now. So in that line, we're working on perfecting our online store and trying to understand how we get it to more people. And I'd say that if I'm looking in 5 years, I would like to see us, of course, we do need another space. We need to handle production, to increase production, and because we're very tight now where we are. But doing it all, keeping the artisanal way, making sure the products are very high quality, very cared for, going into the right stores, and then creating another space. We have now Parallel the restaurant, which needs to go back when COVID is over, go back to dine in and patio, and then creating another little factory that will have space to do more halva, more. We will take more control over the whole process of the making of the tahini, and then opening maybe another storefront. We have many ideas, as you know. We just in the last month we were dreaming about 3 spaces, and each space dictated a new concept.
But I'd say that our focus isn't to open more retail, it's to kind of create this space to manufacture, make, and maybe sell there also.
Yeah.
And create more, right? And then sell either online or to stores, or from these 2 locations.
Yeah, for sure.
That can be one near another, right?
Yeah, the manufacturing is the heart of the thing, but because I think we all see it together, there's a great beauty in manufacturing. Mm-hmm. It's machines that are doing things, making, products. There's a lot of fascination for people. So we don't want to hide it in the back. We don't want to have a front of house and a back of house. We want everything to integrate with each other. We want people to come and see how we do things. For me also, and this is a connection to the art, I see great beauty in machines. If you build them the right way, if you give them the right aesthetics, they have a lot of beauty, and people are drawn to that beauty. People are drawn, to the stone that we have in Parallel. It's rotating, grinding. It has this beautiful motion. It's dripping, so of course, manufacturing is completely connected with whatever will be in the front. If it's a restaurant, if it's a store, if it's a food truck, if it's anything we do.
Well, whatever you do, Aaron, I'm sure it's going to be beautiful with all of its grandiosity. So we'll move to personal.
Okay.
And we'll start with, and I think you may have mentioned this, but where were you born? Just to be clear, because
I was born in
the accent throws people.
In Canada 50 years ago this year.
You're so old.
A milestone.
Yeah, but we went back to Israel very quickly. I was less than a year, and then we grew up in Israel. Eventually, when we were teenagers, we came back to Canada. We all hated it here, so we went back alone to Israel. Then we hated it, and I've been in Israel and Germany until 5 years ago. So
where do you consider home? Where do you feel at home?
I feel home here, and I feel home back in Israel. I feel home in a few places.
That's wonderful, because many people who have lived and moved, and they always feel, well, people that I've spoken to can often feel unsettled. They never feel they're really home anywhere. So, but I think you kind of make your home, your surroundings, your home.
Our father and mother, moved us so many times. For us, it's exciting to move to a new place, a new neighborhood, a new street, and you discover all the things around. It's very exciting for me.
I think in addition
that love
to
of change, that love of change has done that as well.
We moved a lot, but then also the different backgrounds that our parents are from, I think, added our ability to connect with more people. So our mother was of British descent, and our father of Yemeni Orthodox descent from central Jerusalem. And those were so opposing backgrounds that I think all of us are able to see things in a different way because of that.
Right.
Yeah, we went from an ultra religious grandfather that we used to spend weekends at in Jerusalem to a Christian grandma in Kent, in south of London. So it was big differences, big worlds, very different points of view.
It's very different, but at the end of the day, all the people are the same, right? It's not that different.
Yeah.
And it sounds like food is a constant. The importance of food is always there. And that definitely brings people together and connects people.
It's true. I think Alon remembers this as well. The table at our grandfather's, the smell of kubane, which is a Yemenite baked dish that you have on Saturday morning. The pitas that my father used to bake, and my step grandma, and that we smell, and our auntie, and we smelt it, and then tasted it and saw it, and so it was. And our father has a great love for food. I think everything goes evolves around food and people and sitting and talking, and so it was very present for us when we grew up. And I think through a restaurant, in Parallel, not only manufacturing, but also having people come and you see them sit and eat and listen and see. And that's a huge satisfaction.
Aharon, I'm with you on that, because like when we had pita break 25 years ago, that was one of my loves also, was having people come in and serve them and see them happy. And the same thing's happening with Parallel. I miss that element when we went more into commercial baking. I miss the people element and the noise and the vibe and the people being happy and being able to make them happy, because we're basically serving them, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hopefully get back to that once.
It's around the corner.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure.
around the corner. So, what are some of the key lessons you learned from your parents? Because your mother was also an artist.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what are some key lessons?
Yeah, so I think my mom was she was an artist, a painter, and I think more aesthetics. I remember going with her on these trips, finding things in all kinds of, different areas and bringing them back home, changing them, treating them, doing things. I remember both my father and mother all the time moving furniture around, rearranging, renovating, all the time doing things without our surroundings. My father, I think my big lesson from him is that he takes life as it is. I don't know, I'm not sure if it was always that way, but maybe when he was younger it was different, but he really accepts life, and he went through a lot of changes, a lot of ups and downs, economically, and he just and I think that's a huge lesson from him, to accept, do your changes, try to change in the future what you want to, or where you want to be, or direct your way, but accept and enjoy what you have. If you have a lot, or if you have nothing, or if you have it in the middle, that's okay.
Aharon, it's so interesting to see how, like, I agree, that's our father is like that, and you do have it also. And I'm envious almost of that ability to accept, because I took it in a different way. You always wonder how 3 kids could grow in the same household but all be different. And Liza, for me, it's like I'm unsatisfied and I need to push and I need to change it, and I'm like, grr, and I'm not sleeping at night. I think there are pluses and minuses to everything. It's just interesting to see the differences between people who are experiencing exactly the same thing through childhood.
So, when you moved back here, when you moved back to Toronto from Berlin, what was the catalyst for that? Because there must have been a moment there too where you came back, and was there a time where you were wondering, like, what's next? I imagine the art scene is a little different here than Berlin.
Yeah, I at the time I had 2 kids. My third one was born a half a year before we moved to Canada, and they were studying there in a English-German school or kindergarten. And I loved Berlin, but I did not feel that I belonged there. There was something about the German infrastructure that's very dominant. Even though it's a very international city and it accepts everyone, and the Germans have an amazing social system. It's very easy to live there, but still, both myself and my wife, we didn't feel we belonged there. The language was it was so hard to learn, and we had to decide, where do we want our kids to grow? Are they going to be? I mean, if we don't decide now, and we wanted to be. To have a whole feeling about if we stay or if we move. So if we stay and they grow up as Germans, Israeli Germans, we have to be okay with that. And we decided that we will move or to Israel or to Canada. And my wife's family is in Israel, my family is in Canada. I think we found that Canada was a saner opportunity.
You think?
We're
not sure.
We're not sure. Yeah, the Middle East is a great place, but still it's challenging. And I think we found that in Canada we can do more things and we can be closer to one of our families. So we moved at the right time, I think, with the kids, that they could really feel that this is their home. It was the right age to do that.
Yes. So speaking of age, what was the dumbest thing you did as a teenager?
Oh, I did many things.
Oh, good.
Some of them were throwing chairs at Alon and hammers and breaking a couple of doors, because Alon used to push my buttons. So That
You
was
may
a
have mentioned that in a previous podcast.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, you don't?
Very vague. No, I'm
I
joking.
remember the stickers we used to put on the doors to cover the holes because
yeah.
we were afraid of our parents finding out what happened.
Well, after you made holes in them, and also not only that, he once threw a stool at me, and I luckily shut the door, like just closed the door, and the stool went through one of the legs through the door. Aaron today, I'm actually is shocking how calm he is compared to what kind of a child he was. So,
Well, it seems you got it out in your youth, which is probably a good thing.
I got everything out. Another thing I used to do, I used to run in front of cars, just challenge, and nobody knew. The parents didn't know.
I think Dad caught you once. Was it you or Guy he caught, and he got so angry?
You all did? Did you do it too?
I think Guy or Aaron. I think Aaron. No.
I think Guy, he caught him when he was running into the street, but I don't think he saw me running in front of the cars
on purpose.
Intentionally.
I think they me if they saw that, but stuff like that, just doing dangerous things, crashing. Things like that.
So we'll leave it at that. We'll keep it sane-ish. What did you want to be when you grow up as a young?
I think I always knew that something with the architecture, art, something in that line.
Okay. And what is you run you run Parallel. You're basically there all the time. What is the morning routine? Because you have kids as well. So what does that look like?
Now it's COVID, and with no schools or kindergartens, we have to kind of divide the day. So I'm the first half of the day I'm with the kids, and then Shira is with the kids, and I go to Parallel, and we have to work also from home. So we do emails when my youngest son manages to sit in front of the screen for an hour with the online learning. I do my emails, and then I head to Parallel, and I have a lot of stuff also around Parallel, not at Parallel. So that's the way it is right now. And hopefully it will change.
And where is your happy place?
My happy place?
Mm-hmm.
My home is a happy place, sitting here.
Does the furniture constantly get moved there as well?
It does, yeah.
The walls also keep moving, by the way, Liza. You can come one day and the walls moved, and you're not sure you're in the right house.
Yeah, we keep doing stuff here as well because it's fun, and it's and we see how it can be, so we change it. But I think sitting in the garden and on the hammock, trying to get 1 minute of peace until somebody jumps on you. It's like a peaceful moment,
right?
A good moment.
Well, I think in terms of moving furniture and renovating, you might be rubbing off on one brother anyway.
It did.
Aren't you undergoing renovations?
Well, you may hear noises in the background, and there are a few people doing some work here. And I told Aaron that I'm going to give him the bill because I'm changing my stairwell, and it's just because of him and Shira, because they keep changing, and I leave my changes to once in 5 years, and then I regret it a day into it. But I think it will be worth it. I think it will be wonderful. So thank you, Aaron, for that.
The influence is there. And Aaron, what is your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. Ooh. I'm not sure. I used to have many. Now I'm not guilty about it.
So you've just lost the guilt factor.
Yeah, I try not to be guilty for anything.
Well, good for you. It's a good way to be. If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
For sure, it would have to be with landscape architecture.
Okay.
I would really be interested in doing some things in the city and having that influence.
Wonderful.
One of them is connecting a bridge between Cherry Beach and the island, Toronto Island, for bicycles and pedestrians.
Okay, did Alon put you up to that?
No, we're all on it, I think.
Okay.
Independently.
Yeah, we're all in agreement, and we want to make Toronto Island our central park.
Yeah, it makes no sense for this massive island to sit there, and I know I'm repeating myself, but beautiful. Aaron, you like going there with a family, right? You
go there. I go, and it's fun to cross.
And how much does it cost for you and a family to go through to this free park that we have?
if we take the taxi, it's $10 each, and then the ferry is a bit less. But still, it's fun going. But it's nice to have the choice. But
Yes.
if we had the bridge onto the island, we'd be there a lot, and we'd be cycling over there, going to the beach. There are amazing beaches there. It's a huge park, and
I mean, I go to Hanlon's. I think Aharon and the family doesn't.
we have some secret beaches near Gibraltar Point. Kind of hidden beaches that you there's an artist residency there, so right behind there. And
I wouldn't share that much with everyone, Aharon.
Exactly the path going behind.
Well, if a bridge goes in, there's going to be more people.
I know. I don't care. The island is for everyone. You have to look at the greater good, not at the good. And I'm sorry for the people living there. I know they enjoy it. But there's a 5 million, people city here that's
starving for space.
Can enjoy it in, more than everyone.
Right.
I just say Aharon encourages people to go through the hidden paths near Gibraltar Point. I wouldn't recommend that near Hanlon.
Okay.
Well, now that we know of his background of dangerous living, I think I'll follow your advice, Alon.
Thank you. So, Aharon, let's move to city questions and our connection to the city. I think we kind of inadvertently moved there with Island Comment.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite neighborhood of the city?
I like my neighborhood a lot. I also like. I used to want to go to the west.
So, what is your neighborhood now?
Yeah, where are you?
I'm at Leslieville. I really like it because there's a lot of things happening south of Lakeshore now. There's huge plans at Donlands, and this whole area is developing. It's really looks like it's gonna be very beautiful, and there are going to be a lot of bicycle paths. And
so basically, when you're bored, you go there and you park your car and you watch them move and turn the soil, right?
Exactly. I go with Ozery. We drive the car all around, see which bridge has
changed.
What's
when you're seeing those changes, Aaron, are you critiquing it as well? Are you looking at it and saying?
It's a bit early to critique because still everything is still at the level of going under the ground. We'll see when they start constructing the buildings, the streets, and I really hope that there are quite a few historic buildings there and a few old silos and a few. I would love the city to see the city use all these existing buildings and integrating them into new ones, and not trying to bring all the usual companies into this, but having more unique companies do interesting things over there, like what's happening in Geary.
Aharon, what's your favorite restaurant in the city? Other than Parallel.
Let me think. I don't have one favorite restaurant. I have, what? I haven't been to a restaurant for so long. But I do go to Ascari, and Oteka Ascari is one of my favorite that I go. It's very close to my house, so I'm there a lot. Mm-hmm. I love the pasta. I love sitting there. It's having a glass of wine. It's great.
Yeah, they do a good job. What's your favorite? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What's your favorite coffee shop? I think I know the answer to that.
Right now, it's Sam James on Brock, north of Queen on the west side. I stop there a lot, but there are many good cafes in the city now.
So Sam James, that's also one of your favorites, Alon. Who found it first?
Alon found it first, but the one on Brock is a new one.
Yeah, and they have a really nice bakery there attached. Yeah. So really good.
They're working with a bakery. I forgot the name. So they're baking. You can see all the baking done there, and then you can have a coffee. And I can imagine how it will be like to sit there. It opened during COVID.
Yeah, there's so many good coffee shops in this city.
Yeah, many, and that area is beautiful. That's an area I love as well. The West Side. It's a great area.
What is your favorite summer and winter activity? in the city.
Summer would be cycling and going to the island, I guess. Just cycling around. And winter, it would be going to some.
Is it tobogganing with the kids?
Yeah, that would be one. But I was thinking more like going to some quiet cottage and just being there, isolated a bit.
One of your favorite city.
One of the best areas to go to.
So I think
which area? Sorry,
Prince Edward County. So I think we can almost say Prince Edward County is a suburb of Toronto for these purposes, and we're joining. We're late to the game on that one.
Yeah, but it's beautiful, beautiful, and very different from the rest of Ontario.
Aharon, what's the biggest missed opportunity of the city? I know you mentioned the bridge. Is there anything else you can think of?
Again, the bridges for sure. I think the whole development of Lakeshore and just using the beaches and maybe not building as much as they're building right now, and making the public space more available for everybody, for cyclists, for pedestrians.
I think they're trying it, but then when you ride your bike on Queen's Quay, it's crazy how busy it is on the weekends. It's not really, you don't want to go there almost.
Yeah, but you have to do infrastructure also for bicycles, also for pedestrians, also for wide sidewalks. One of the biggest things are to use the sidewalks to have people sit and eat and drink, like it started a bit in
Cafe TO
was happening, and then now I don't know where they've all gone. I hope they bring them out.
They're starting now, Aharon.
I hope the city is going to be easier on restaurants using patios, even if it's just on the street, not making everything so highly regulated and difficult for people, because it's a city that needs to live, and the pulse needs to be really strong, and part of that pulse is people enjoying, eating and drinking and talking on the streets. And
Liza, you noticed that this is a common comment, yes, right?
I was just going to say it's a very common thread throughout.
Everyone
many
is frustrated,
of the interviews.
Yeah, with the
frustration
city.
Of that for sure.
And now, like, because of a pandemic, things are happening. I'm really, really hoping that it will stay that way and they won't revert to their old bureaucratic ways.
Well, and what I've noticed too with many of our guests is that they have lived in other places, or they are from other places that embrace that outdoor space and eating and drinking and socializing outdoors. And particularly because Toronto has such a long winter, one would think that they would, in the time that we do have to be outside, that they would embrace that more. So hopefully the influence of, different people from different cultures can start to shift that. I'm
loving how it is now these days. And you see it on Geary, Aharon, like people buy beer at Blood Brothers. They buy pasta at Familia Baldassare, or buy our products at Parallel, and then go sit in the park there. And it's such a nice vibe. And you see it in many, many parks. It's as if the parks are an extension of the restaurants. Mm-hmm. And I hope once restaurants open, all those people will be pulled back into the restaurants. But I think, Aharon, what you're saying is, like, for the summer and spring and fall, may they be on the streets and around.
So that's for the summer and fall, and any weather that you can do that. For for the winter, I think there's such beautiful structures in the city that you can turn into indoor markets and create spaces for people to do that just indoor. I think that should be a huge thing. Then reducing lanes like they did in Bloor to one. We talked about this, Alon, to one lane for cars, then for bicycles, and then the street. You see how it slows down everything. People like walking there. I like walking there now much more than
I know when they did it, extended the bike lane. I think it was west of Shaw. I'm not sure about this, because you can't park easily. The businesses will suffer because you have less parking. But I agree with you, Aharon. Now, I ride my bike a lot around the city, into that areas particularly, and it has slowed down everything, and it kind of seems to make it more of a neighborhood.
it's that's a beautiful project they did. I think they should do it in other places. And another thing I think they should do is they should go wild a bit more wild with architecture. There's a beautiful project coming up of Frank Gehry on King Street.
Is that the one with the plants and shrubbery?
Buildings that are going to be there's a building of Frank Gehry in New York, and I think it's going to be a little bit similar to what he did there. And the buildings are such, they will stay for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They are objects, and we have to make them more interesting, more, their shapes that today, with today's technology, can do so many things. The other big thing I would love to see is green rooftops, using roofs to grow stuff, vegetables. We would love to do it in Parallel. I know there are big problems with the city and with getting permits, but
well, Liza, Aharon wanted to start growing stuff on our roof. So we grew stuff on the roof within the restaurant. So on top of the washroom, there was a roof, and we were growing greenery stuff. And then it was, let's build the whole thing on the roof. And we're Aharon, first we have to be profitable before we build a greenhouse on our roof.
Hydroponic, using hydroponic, technology with water and the stuff that you put in the water, and space, vertical space, controlling humidity and temperature. You can grow, for instance, above our roof at Parallel. If we use that space, speaking of utopia, we could actually grow everything.
I think that will come one day.
We could even sell it to other people using it. So, and then it's a win-win situation. You don't have to import stuff from outside. You grow it and you use it, and it's the freshest, most beautiful vegetables you can think of.
Well, Aharon, let's to summarize the city questions. What's the closest charity to your heart? The city charity.
We've done, I don't know the location, but we've done a few things with Parallel with homeless people. These trucks that go around and give food, and we took part in a few of those. That's a thing I would say we should do more, and the city should do more to take care of people, homeless people. That there are quite a few of them in the city.
Do you know, I want to add to that you did also, when the restaurant was open, we had one staff member with disabilities.
Yeah.
And that brings a tear to my eye, because she's with, just a wonderful person, and it'd be a challenge for her to work anywhere, right?
Yeah, it would be a challenge. And
but she brought such a great energy. She was
you remember
funny.
her?
Yes, yeah. I remember her totally.
She remembers everybody's birthdays.
Sharp. Yeah, just a delight. Yeah. She was a delight.
Jackie, I hope we can bring her back. We tried to bring her back when things opened up a bit, when the patio opened last year, but then we had to close up. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, with all of your plans to expand and buy buildings, and that's something you can definitely keep in mind. So we'll move to the quick fire.
Okay.
And these are just going to be rapid fire questions. So we'll start with, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Well, I never know, because you guys had a British mother, and so I thought maybe she's influenced you.
That may skip a generation, the tea thing.
Right. Dark or milk chocolate?
Dark.
Beer, wine, or whiskey?
Wine.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Lunch.
Home cooked meal or takeout?
Home cooked.
City or countryside?
Both equally.
Favorite season?
Spring.
Night out or stay at home?
I would love to go out now, especially, but I also love staying home.
I think
this time it's a night out for sure.
Yeah, night out seems to be the answer around these times. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
Bath or shower?
Bath.
When you enter the swimming pool, do you jump in or do you tiptoe slowly?
I usually jump in.
Oh, I thought you were going to say usually you push someone in, like one of your brothers.
Aaron and I almost drowned as kids. So do you remember that, Aaron?
Was this at the sea?
No, it was in a pool and our mom saved us. I remember I was holding you and we went in and then suddenly both of us were drowning and then you were shoving my head under the water and I was shoving yours. And it was like a seesaw kind of thing. And I almost thought we were going to die because we were clutching at each other. And then our mother, thank God, because the lifeguard was busy doing other things. She
The
jumped in.
lifeguard was like, I'm not getting into that.
No, I don't like you don't remember that?
I don't remember that. It's something I don't
Okay. Erased from your memory.
Yeah.
There were other things to fill those memories for you.
Traumatic experiences. Okay, cat or dog person?
Dog.
Books or Netflix TV?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Phone calls or texts?
Phone calls.
And music or podcasts?
I listen to music. Yeah, much more.
Listen to music much more? Okay. So I'm just going to ask because I'm curious now. When you say books, what are you reading right now?
There's a book I'm reading for the last 2 years, I think. It's it's called The New Earth or The Power of Now.
Okay.
It's by Eckhart Tolle, and basically it's to summarize it in one line, it's just to be present now, because anything that's we're going through, even in the past or in the future, will be in the present moment.
Okay.
So everything that's happening to us is in the present moment. So we should try and really be present and alert and alive right now, and not.
Liza, I embody that philosophy, as you know, and
I'm not saying this is something that I'm reading in order to be there, but I'm not there.
You're not there.
I think you're closer
like
than other people.
It sounds like you just have to hang out with your father more. He'll keep you present. He'll keep you present.
If there's a good soccer game, he's very present on TV.
Right. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Aharon, thank you. We're done now. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners? Any messages, any news about Parallel that you'd like to tell people?
Just, Parallel, we have our online store, which is great, and we're building, and there are always new things there. Currently in Canada, we're going to open it up to the US very soon. That's like the quickest way to get to what we're doing, and yeah, just that we put our heart and energy into the product, so they have goodness in them, and they're not just there to be. There's purpose behind there. They're healthy. They're most of them. I mean, we have also our indulgent stuff, but a lot of them are very healthy. The source, the sesame seed, is a super healthy seed. That's why it's so easy for us to work with and to promote and do good things with. Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us. My brother, youngest brother, partner, and so thank you very much. It was really interesting. Liza? It is really interesting. Thank you for joining us. We're going to put some of those details of where they can find you and Parallel and all of that in the show notes. Okay. And I think it goes without saying at this point that we're going to have Guy on. Now that we've heard from, we've heard from Alon, we're now hearing from you, Aaron. We're going to have Guy, because let's do it. 3 sides to a lot of these stories, I'm sure. So thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining us. He was the angel as growing up. Okay. Wow. Thank you, guys. Right. Thanks. Okay. Bye.
The Upfront Toronto podcast.